everyone, it's Annabelle and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be doing an update and a care video on the Encyclia cordigera. This is an orchid that I've had for several years now. I repotted it with you guys last year, which is what I'm showing you the footage on screen of. But we'll also be fast forwarding 1 year to an update that I'm doing. I just wanted to frame this video by showing you a bit of the repot from a year ago so that we can really compare the difference, because often I think it's really the update videos that tell you how well an orchid did in a certain medium, and often that gets kind of missed out, I think, and a little bit disjointed when done in separate videos, so people don't always see the updates. So I thought I would kind of capture the moment of the repot here and then do the main update video of how it did in this mix. So this is the repot video from roughly 10 months ago, back in October 2019. It was potted in a self-watering pot with a mixture of sphagnum moss and perlite and a bark top layer. I'd had it in this mix for a couple of years. I had this orchid from a seedling and it grew really well for me. It did really well. I'll link this video up in the corner if you want to see that full video. This is the root system that we started off with, really great. The Encyclia cordigera I initially got as a seedling, potted it in a LECA mix and had a lot of dry layer issues. It wasn't a typical Cattleya type response that I got to semi-hydro. It really didn't like that dry layer and new root tips desiccated. So I repotted it into sphagnum moss in self-watering mix, did amazingly. So I think the Encyclia cordigera and Encyclia care really does differ in some ways to Cattleya care. They do really like a lot more moisture and they're kind of water hogs. So I repotted it in this video from sphagnum moss to some inorganic alternatives that I was testing out, mainly Synthic with a mixture of LECA, Synthic and Pumice. And this is the end of that repot video 10 months ago, where I'd repotted it fully, put a small pebble top layer on, and it was in an inorganic mix. So we're going to fast forward 10 months to now. And this is the Encyclia cordigera at this moment in time. It went from a 15 centimetre pot in that video to a 21 centimetre pot, and as you can see it's now already pretty much grown out of that 21 centimetre pot. The roots have kind of just taken over. I ran into a couple of issues with the type of pot that I used and the small pebble top layer. The small, very fine pebbles that I used to start with actually blocked the roots access, so I had to switch them out to a larger grade of pebble, which allowed the roots to get down. Then I ran into some issues with the rim of this pot that allows it to sit on the outer mask. The rim actually means that roots kind of tunnel around the rim and then have to go in the ledge to get down, so it takes them a little bit longer to get down. They do go down, but they sometimes go up as well, but it hasn't run into any problems with that. I'm totally fine with it looking a little bit wild and crazy, because my favourite part of the Encyclia cordigera is the pseudobulbs, and it's just as well that I love the pseudobulbs because it's still not flowered for me. And I think that this is either a lighting issue or a seasonal issue. So this is the root system now. As you can see, it's tunneled right to the edges of the pot. Loads of new roots have gone down, roots have come out the bottom of the pot. Really doing amazingly in this mix. The Synthic I think is responsible for this, because when I did have it potted in straight LECA, it had some issues, let's put it that way. It's got a pebble top layer which will be reducing the evaporation from the top of the LECA, so the layer of LECA just below the pebbles would be remaining more moist, and the pebbles themselves won't desiccate the new roots so they can get down easily. And this orchid is pretty heavy, I've got to be honest, so it's doing really well. I think that either the lack of blooming could be a lack of temperature differentials between seasons, where previously I've grown this in my old orchid room under LED lights with quite tightly controlled temperatures. It could also be the actual lighting that it received wasn't sufficient, so I've now increased the lighting so it's on a top shelf with my Vandaceous types. We've just got to the end of summer, so I've taken the shade netting down. The risk of burning is now minimal. And I do have some sheaths forming, so I'm hopeful. So the Encyclia cordigera, in my opinion, likes intermediate to warm temperatures. It likes a lot of moisture and a moisture retentive medium. Some people will have different experiences with this orchid, but I can only give you my experiences in my environment. As you know, I'm growing in a intermediate to warm climate in the UK, but I provide supplemental heating in winter so it never goes down below 18 degrees Celsius. In summer it can get to around 30 degrees Celsius in the kind of peak of summer, but that's not long term. It tends to hover more between 20 and 30 degrees. as a kind of general rule during our summer, and then our winter I keep it sort of 18 to 24 degrees Celsius. I love these plump, huge pseudobulbs it produces, and the Encyclia cordigera can get pretty big. It's not a tiny orchid, although it will remain quite compact compared to some of the large Cattleya types. Although it's grouped in the Cattleya alliance, I find that it actually has quite different care from Cattleyas. You can see the sheath forming in this pseudobulb here, so I am really hoping it will bloom, because the blooms have a kind of legendary fragrance of chocolate, and one of the orchids that smells of chocolate, and I've never had the pleasure of smelling it. I've had this from a seedling, and for a while I was being very patient with it, but I'm now kind of like, you must be ready to bloom soon. I think it must be, so I'm hoping to get some blooms from it. I think I've definitely seen specimens blooming smaller than this, so there's something that I'm not providing that it wants. So lighting or seasonal temperatures, we will see which one it is. If it was lighting, then I have increased my lighting significantly, and it's now getting natural lighting, so it could be that. So we're going to have to wait and see. As you can see, the pseudobulbs are now getting quite big, and there's good size progression still, so I don't think we're at maximum size. So I'm hoping that they get even bigger, plumper, more shiny. I just love the shape of these. One that I really want is the Encyclia alata, because it has kind of onion shaped pseudobulbs, which I think are just gorgeous, but I've never found one reasonably priced for a decent size. Just picking off the dried bracts here because they reveal the beautiful pseudobulb beneath, and I think that it's a shame to leave them on when you've got such gorgeous chunk to work with on these beautiful glossy bulbs. The new growths appear at the base of the bulbs, and it's actually quite helpful to remove the bracts because the new roots can get down a lot easier then. I don't know why, there's something super satisfying about peeling off the dried sheaths from this orchid. Look at those shiny glossy bulbs. I think that even if it didn't bloom, I would still keep it because it's gorgeous, but I want it to bloom because the fragrance is pretty legendary among Cattleyas and among orchids. So let's hope for some beautiful chocolate smelling blooms soon. So that is my kind of general advice on the Encyclia cordigera. I'm just going to show you where I actually keep it. So this is the shelving that I've moved it to in the new environment. So it's up in the top with my Vandas now, and we are just past the last heat wave of summer. I think we had a kind of quite a few intermittent heat waves this summer where I had to put some shade netting up, so I've now taken that down. It's getting really good lighting, we're still getting some sunny days, and we've got a sheath in here, so keep your fingers crossed for me that this will bloom. So in summary, my experiences with the Encyclia cordigera are that it loves a lot of moisture. Had a few issues with the dry top layer of LECA alone, which was resolved by placing it into a self-watering with sphagnum mix where it actually never dried out. It had a constant reservoir of water, and you can see from the previous repot that it did excellently in that. Then 10 months ago switched to a mix of Synthic, LECA and Pumice in a self-watering setup, so constantly moist, never dries out, reservoirs constantly kept topped up. And you can see again it's done excellently in this, and we are going to need to repot it into a larger pot soon. I think I'll probably wait till spring because it probably won't get a new growth out this year anymore. So I'm going to have to find a bigger pot than a 21 centimetre to put this in, or divide it, but I would like to keep it large so that I can get a nice specimen with the potential for multiple bloom displays. Since it has never bloomed for me, maybe it has that option from older bulbs, I don't know. We will have to see, and I will obviously keep you guys updated. So thank you so much for watching my video today on my Encyclia cordigera, the initial repot briefly, and the update and what I found about its care. I hope that you enjoyed this video and this formatting, and if you did, don't forget to give it a like or subscribe to my channel for more regular orchid updates, and I'll see you guys all later. Bye!